Like I said, my favorite artist of all time, singer-songwriter, would be Paul McCartney, only because he got extra time on this planet up until the day in 1980 when John Lennon was murdered by a. They were tied. I couldn't make up my mind which one. I liked John's kind of nasally voice, but I liked Paul's sweet voice, or Paul's rock and roll voice, and John whispering. Or I like John's lyrics over Paul's, except for when Paul outwrote John, Eleanor Rigby, although Lennon states he wrote 80% of the words on that. Okay, that's one of two songs that Paul and John disagree with. Yeah. All right. But Paul, on other songs, they didn't disagree with. Blackbird. I mean, that's every bit as genius writing lyrics as anything John Lennon wrote. But then again, John Lennon would turn around. They said Paul was the melody man, right? And John Lennon would turn around, oh, my lover for the, based on a Japanese tonality scale. Oh, and stripped his music bare. That's my favorite John Lennon album, by the way. Plastic Ono Band. Him, Ringo, and Klaus Vormann. Phil Spector in the background, plotting murder, and Yoko knitting or whatever she did on a bed. All right? That's my favorite John Lennon album. Far better than Imagine, which is a classic album and probably my number 2. Matter of fact, he was out writing Paul at the beginning. Paul had, some stutters along the way, and I mean, his first 2 albums were brilliant, but then he started thinking, well, everybody thinks I'm a shithead. And then subsequent albums, his first album, first of all, with Wings, was, even though it was supposed to be more like a, Dylan in the country kind of recording, haphazard. Yeah. And if you listen to it like that, it's a great album. But then there's some weaknesses I hear on Railroad Speedway. But he finally got it together, and he was writing back on John Lennon's level with Band on the Run. They were so close. I can't choose between the two. If you just choose the time up till 1980.
Yeah, it crystallizes for Paul around 73. And then that 73 to 76 run that peaks with that Wings Over America tour, I mean, it was almost like a second renaissance for him in terms of he was playing bass and singing live as good as he ever had as well.
Ever. Oh, God, have you watched? I was there for some of that footage for Rock Show was actually from the San Francisco show. But I've never been, I can't tell because the arena, the way it's all done, they're similar. But I'll tell you right now, I was there that night. No fucking mistakes. And he was singing right on key. That album, Wings Over America, rates very high. It's underneath the Allman Brothers live, but it's very close to it.
Without a doubt, one of the greatest live 70s albums. Had Paul not done anything beyond 1970, the guy's legend would rest assured, because nobody wrote a batch of songs as good as he did it in the 60s. I mean, you could say Lennon, comparable only. Yeah. But had he not done anything else, the fact that he still did a lot of, especially looking back at it retrospectively, a lot of that 70s stuff was great. Despite what the critics were giving him shit for at the time, a lot of that stuff holds up. And there's variety in it. And I like that you have albums from Paul that are different. Ram is different from McCartney. Wildlife, wildly different. And now when you look at the totality of his catalog, it's brilliant that he has, you just see his musicality in full. It's so wide-reaching, much more than people ever give him credit for.
And his use of chords got quite intricate in the 90s and have continued to this very day. He's using advanced chording in his music now, and his melodies are now based on almost jazz ideas on some of his new stuff.
And actually improved as a lyricist, like from Flaming Pie onward. He actually, because everything was sort of impersonal in the 70s. It was like snapshots and like, very distant in terms of the what he's writing about. It becomes much more personal from Flaming Pie onward. He's writing much more about himself. And
that album has so much soul.
Yeah, lyrics went up a notch, and to think that this guy who was already a genius in the 60s has continued to make the effort to improve, I also find very inspiring.
I agree.